Hello, my name is Nigel Woods. I'm Business Development Manager for Apps2Digital. Today I'm going to go and do a brief demonstration with a little bit of a presentation beforehand on what Apps2Digital does. So what we are, we term ourselves as an evergreen application lifecycle management service. It's a lot of words, but basically what it means is that we have the ability to identify and understand every application that is run through your organization. So this will be not only who is running those applications, where, but the resources they require, the versions, etc., so that we can get a very exact picture of what is happening with the applications across the organization. Then we can use this information for any desktop transformation, for understanding as time goes by what those applications are. So hence why it's an evergreen solution, because you run this all the time and you have exact understanding of what's going on around those applications. It's a cloud-based service, so very easy to get up and running and get the information you need very quickly in a timely fashion. We have a four-stage process. We have a discover, which is about putting not only a Windows endpoint agent these days, but we have a Mac and Android ones as well that will be installed as an agent that then talks to our cloud databases to get the information that we need. The assessment piece will create an inventory of all of those applications and be able to present to you all the information around those applications. Once we've got those, we can then start categorizing the applications and moving forward to packaging and deliver those applications. We have integrations with all of the major cloud providers to allow us to automate a lot of that as well. Just an architectural overview. We have a REST API that we talk to with our agent that communicates securely through to each company has its own database, and then we have a database which does machine learning to understand more about categorizing these apps and everything. We have integrations, as I say, into the major clouds, and then we present all of this through an HTML5 console, which I'm going to show you very shortly. For the areas that Apps2Digital helps, desktop transformation, the ability to make sure that you understand everything that's going on, so that when you're deploying your new desktops, whether they be physical or in the cloud, you're putting the most appropriate size for those applications and for the users. Application management to make sure that you're using the resources in the correct way, that there's any potential security issues through versions, non-compliant software. We always spot software that shouldn't be on people's devices, and a lot around performance, particularly around the AUC performance and experience, so we can understand a lot better about that. Disaster recovery, we can categorize applications and say these applications are going to be the key ones in a business continuity model, so we can have those ready to spin up at any time. And then mergers and acquisitions. Any company that's taking over another company will struggle usually to understand what those applications are, so we can get in there very quickly, understand that. The benefits of all of this is making sure that we are correctly sized for disaster recovery, that we're putting in the right desktop, particularly cloud-based ones, that you want to make sure that the resources are there for it. It's great for an application performance assessment, understanding exactly what those apps are being used, so that you can, over time as well, see if applications are changing in the way that they're working and consuming resources. And then another area we do is we look at SaaS-based apps. With Citrix, we have the Citrix micro apps, which is part of Workspace, so we can take those nasty applications such as Chrome, which is a very big resource hogger. We can can take the applications, the SaaS-based applications, rationalize them into Citrix micro apps, saving a lot of resources in there. The benefits of all of this is this evergreen computing stability, so that we are always making sure that we're putting the right applications, the right versions, that as we build new and as we move up the Windows hotfixes and versions, that we are there with the applications as well. Packaging deployed to the Microsoft standards, so AppV and MSIX, we can deliver to as well, and rationalizing those applications, so applications that are no longer used or are used but not as many as the license you've got, so you can save the cost of those licenses. So we're going to go into demos now and just go through a brief explanation of how Apps2Digital works. So when we get down to this, this is our HTML5 console. We have different levels of types of users, so that each user can just see the company that they're working with. And the first thing we would usually do is have a look at the devices that are being discovered at the moment. So this is my device, for instance, and if I can drill down in there, I can already see a snapshot of what's happening in my system. So in here, we're seeing that it could tell me, for instance, what versions of the agents and the amount of RAM used, the amount of resources being utilized. We then can see the applications that are being consumed. So for me, these are fairly standard applications that I've got here. Any problems that we've had in the past, so we can see some blue screens that I've had in a while ago, and the number of sessions that I'm running, so you can see all of those as well. So once we understand what the active devices are, we can look at what devices have all been run over the time and when they've been run, and then the users, because what we're seeing now is we would quite often see a physical desktop, maybe in a UC, a virtual desktop somewhere. So it's really important to understand where each user is logging into. We bring this in, we can see the number of devices, so we can see the different versions of the operating systems and different types of operating systems that have run across the organization. We then go to one area which I think is always important, is I'm going to download. This downloads all of this information, so it gives you a spreadsheet of everything that's happening in the organization in terms of those applications. And let's bring that up. And we'll be able to see, for instance, we can see all of the users, useful stuff like what the profile sizes are and the number of sessions they've been running, the application count, for instance. We can drill down into the device list to see all of the devices that are being run and the users on those, the OS. So this is all the information we're seeing, but bringing this into a spreadsheet is very useful if you're trying to analyze those. Your applications that are being run. A lot of information here about the number of sessions. So see, Microsoft Word is the most popular, most run application in this instance. Also looking at RAM average and peak and CPU will give you some very interesting figures around what those utilizations are. One or two other things we'll tell you about. And the final one that I quite like is the ability to have a tick list, so you can actually drill down and have a look who's using each application. So that's what's happening and being discovered. We now go to that assess piece where we're analysing the data. So one of the first things we can do is categorize those applications, or get the applications that we need. So this is just looking at, if I clear the filter, you'll see that these are, we've discovered 1,474 different applications across this organization. So if we just drill down into Adobe, for instance, I can point in here and I can look at how many different versions of Adobe DC we've got running. And as you can see on here, there's actually 31 different versions of them, some different languages, but many different versions of the same language are there. Also, we can drill down and have a look at the historical sessions. We go then into groups. This allows us to categorize applications. We'll automatically categorize many of them into the standard sort of system departmental ones and low used. What we can then do is create our own ones, so we can create our critical apps, for instance, and then put into there the applications that we want in a DR scenario, for instance. So we can start looking at the resources, those with the other groups. So once we've got those groups done, we can come, we can look further at the inventories, but what I tend to do is then have a look at the resources used. So we saw that critical apps group there, so we can now drill down into those critical apps. We can see what those applications are, drill down into individual ones if we want to, and we have a great view of what's happening in those. We can drill down here as well, so we can actually pinpoint and have a look at individual areas, seeing the RAM, the CPU, and the number of users. If we want to drill further, and we could actually say, let's have a look at Google Chrome, for instance, and we can drill down and see further the amount of resources used for that. We also see all of the versions and what's being run on those applications. So this is a great graph to show you just what's being used around here. You can see Chrome and Word and Adobe Reader. So CD View is probably a system one, but it allows you to see a lot of information, and then you can drill down and say, rather than 7 days, let's look at a 30-day picture. Has anything changed in the organization? So that's a lot of information there. The other piece that we can do is we can query any of the data. So we can come in here and we can actually look at some of the many databases that we have. So we can add different reports into here so that we can find more information. And of course, we've got these integrations. So you'll see integrations with Azure Active Directory, Citrix Cloud, Microsoft AVD, for instance, all into a nice, easy looking screen. The last module we have is the wellbeing module. That's all around how the users are utilising these applications and making sure that their well-being is looked after by reporting on if there's people who've trying to do conference calls all day, every day, not having the breaks they need to make sure that their mental health is maintained. In these pandemic times, it's very easy to sit at home and do conference calls all day without that break and without looking after their mental health. So that's all around there. That's another area that we do. So that's a very brief look through what Apps2Digital is about. I hope you find that useful. If you want any more information, please get in contact with me, and I'm more than happy to show you around further. Thank you.